thing to do is take Charlie, the German Shepherd, to the trails in North Landing State Park, and we hike a ton, trying to get prepared for that little tiny trip that we're doing. So I don't know how well the flat land of Virginia Beach is going to help me, but that's what we're trying to do. So what I do, I am what is called an EOS implementer. EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. I'll say that again slowly, Entrepreneurial Operating System. So the summary of kind of what I do, and there's a page in front of you that tells you just a little bit about the company, and we're going to look at that diagram there. I'm going to kind of explain what we do. But the summary of what I do is I help entrepreneurs get more of what they want out of their companies. I ask a fun question, and I leave it open-ended intentionally when I meet with clients or potential clients, and I ask them, what do you want out of your business? So pause real quick and answer that question to yourself. What do you want out of your business? And then we're going to test whether or not I'm right about what you want. Everybody got something in your head?
Yep.
All right. 99% of the time, the answer is some form of the word freedom. Was that right? It's either financial freedom, it's freedom from your time, it's freedom to do what you want to do, spend time with your family, your friends, your spouse, whatever it is, it comes down to freedom. And so really what I aim to do is every single client that I have, I want to give them that freedom that they're looking for. There's a guy by the name of Gino Wickman. He wrote the book Traction, which we're going to give away a couple of these at the end. This is what the book looks like. Gino was actually called into his parents' company. They owned a real estate company, and they were in trouble. Things were not going well for the company, so they called Gino at the ripe age of 23 and said, hey, can you come back and help us with the family company? And Gino came back, and it took about a year and a half, and he turned the company around. So he had a natural knack and passion for business. He was just kind of like born to do this. He spent another 7 years with the company. They ended up selling it. Great profit. He stayed with the new leadership team for about a year. They transitioned him out. And the entire time he was a part of a group called EO. Does anybody know what EO is? Because we have a local group. Okay.
Entrepreneurs Organization?
Entrepreneurs Organization. There you go. It is not associated with EOS directly, but Gino was a founding member of the Detroit branch of EO. And so that's when he started working with EO, by the way, as a peer-to-peer development group. It's not a networking group. It's a bunch of us that own businesses. We get together and then we challenge each other. You know, I've got my group right now with one of the companies I own. You want to talk about a challenge. They're going, you either need to hit some goals, you need to sell it. So that's one of my companies that I own. That's where I'm at right now. And that EO group is holding me accountable to do the things we need to do or to say, hey, time has passed, we're done. So it's a great group to be with, very challenging group to be with. But Gino was a member of, again, the group in Detroit. And that's where he found he had a real knack and passion. He loved helping other business owners. So he started putting together the tools of what's now called EOS. We are now in, these numbers change every quarter when I meet with all my people. We're in over 20,000 companies around the world now. There's about 700 of me running around, although there's only one in Hampton Roads. It's just me. I do have a buddy joining me. There's a new guy coming. He's going to join me in the end of February. He'll finish his initiation basically into EOS. And so I'll have another guy that's offering it in the area, and I'm excited about that. But what I'm going to do, I realize that not everybody in the room is a business owner. Matter of fact, we've got all gamuts here. We've got some people who are just solo entrepreneurs. Some of you work for somebody else. I'm going to take the principles from EOS, and I'm going to teach them today. And I'm going to show you guys, it doesn't matter where you're at in business, how to use these to improve. I'd also love for this to be interactive. I hear myself talk all the time. It gets very boring to me. So the more that you guys can interrupt me, the better. Ask questions. Ask me specifically, how does it apply to your situation? Push me a little bit today, because I'd love to interact with you and not make this, I know we're kind of in like classroom chair setting, but that's not how I want this to go the entire time. Deal?
Deal.
Thumbs up? All right, cool. All right. So, wow, I have to actually push hard to make that happen. All right. So what I'm going to do, if you guys actually grab this document, this model right here is what I'm going to kind of sketch out, but I'm going to talk about this model. So turn it to this page and have this page up so you can reference that model. here's the premise that we start with. Every single business owner deals with a set of issues. It's called 130 different issues that you guys deal with. What Gino discovered was all those 136 issues, they were not foundational issues. They were really surface problems of a bigger issue. And so he broke it up into 6 key components and said, you know what? If we take these 6 components and we make them stronger in our business, that's going to help us succeed. And so that really, I was drawn to EOS. I'll back up and tell a little bit about my story. I've owned 7 companies over the years. I was super frustrated. I don't know if anybody heard of Layer 9 Technologies? Okay, my buddy Troy McCollum owns that. We've been friends for years. Troy called me out of nowhere, and Troy's not the touchy-feely type to like check in on me and say, hey buddy, how you doing? That's not Troy at all, but he called and he said, hey, how you doing? I literally remember this. I can visualize where I was at. I was sitting in front of the Virginia Beach Convention Center. I don't know why, I don't remember what I was there for, but I was in my truck, sitting at the Virginia Beach Convention Center, just looking at the convention center, and he called, and I sat on the phone with him for about 30 minutes. And I just whined a lot, basically. I was being a little crybaby. Said, I'm frustrated, leads aren't coming in, I can't get these, I owned 2 companies at the time, I cannot get these 2 companies to grow. I'm frustrated, and I'm definitely not free. Like, my freedom is not here right now. I feel like I am chained to this freaking company right now. So, Troy said, read the book. Oh, come on. There, thank you. I get 1. Read the book, Traction. And so, of course, I went right back and purchased it and did not read it. He called, just telling you how it was. He called me 3 months later and he said, hey, how you doing? He's checking on me again, like a good friend should. Checked on me again, and I gave him the same sob story. He goes, did you read the book? And I was like, no. I started it. I got through like the first half of the first chapter. And he said, you need to read the freaking book and then call me back. Full send. I read it cover to cover that week. Literally just knocked the entire thing out. And I went, holy crap. Now I know how to run a business. Like, for the first time, I fully understand all the tools and pieces that need to be there for me to be effective as a business owner. So once I finished that, I did full send into both my companies, and it was absolutely transformational. So what I'm about to show you are all the things that I've done over the last 5 years inside that company, and I now do with all of my clients. Ready?
Great.
All right, let's talk about the first one. So I'm going to give you just a simple, you know what's really great? You guys are actually looking at the model, so my horrible handwriting is not going to be that big of a deal today. So if you don't know what I wrote, look down. It's right there. So at the top is traction. Or, no, it's not. Jeez, losing my head. Vision. Vision is defined as everybody in the organization on the same page with where you're going and how you're going to get there. So let's do a quick check. How are you guys doing with vision? If you ask anybody who works with you or for you, what's our vision? Tell me. Are they all going to say the same thing, identically? Or are they going to give you different little variations? Like, our vision is to clean stuff. Our vision is to take care of people's bodies. Our vision is to whatever it is in your area. Are they all going to say the same thing? So why is that important? When everybody can say the same thing the same way every single time, it's kind of like the team in a rowboat. They're all rowing in the same direction. That's what we want, and that's what vision looks like. Second one is people. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and fill in those and talk about the tools or disciplines as I go around the model. So people is simply this. It's defining who the right people are for your organization. So the right people for one organization are not necessarily the right people for another one. If you've got an IT company, or what you guys do, versus what Chuck does, those are different people. We have to define them differently and figure out who's the right player for this. You can have a phenomenal player. I'm old, so I'm going to go Michael Jordan, because I still think he's the GOAT. He's the deal. We can argue about it later, but greatest of all time is Michael Jordan. But if you take Michael Jordan and you put him on the football field, he doesn't have the same impact, does he? You got to define who's the right person for your specific organization.
I was about to say that.
Or baseball.
See, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that to my man. He tried. He filled some seats, bro. That's what he did. But that's actually that is a great example, is He tried it, not quite as great at that one, was he? All right, next one is data. Now this one is a fun one. I cannot tell you how many organizations that I've dealt with, how many people I've dealt with. How do you know, when I was, I was young 20s, and I went to the boss of a job I had at the time, and I said, can you, I don't even know where I got the wisdom to ask this question. Like, I was kind of an idiot in my 20s, but I actually stopped by my boss's office and I said, can you define the win? And he kind of went, what? And I said, what does it look like at the end of the week when I've done the job that you want me to do and I've done it at the level that you want me to do it at? What does it look like? What I was asking is kind of, what are the measurables? What does that look like? It is shocking to me how many people work week in and week out. They don't even know. They don't know if they're successful or not. They don't know if they exceeded your expectations, met them, or they were under unless you stop by and tell them. So we have to run companies off of clear measurables, KPIs, give it whatever term you want. We have to be running on this, and I'm gonna come back around to that. All right, issues. This one I rolled my eyes at. I'm just being honest with you. I was like, what in the world? 6 key components of business? And issues is one of them. Yep, it 100% is. So here's the deal. How many of you guys have either said or heard it said, why would I bother to bring that up? They don't listen to me anyway. Anybody ever heard that? I hear it constantly. And here's what they're saying. What I'm seeing and observing at my job does not matter to management. They don't care. We need to build culture in our organizations of not just being allowed to call out issues, but expecting people to call out issues. It is shocking to me how many organizations at the bottom level, the boots on the ground people, no one listens to them. Like, how are you sitting in your ivory tower and you're not listening to the people that got boots on the ground? They're the people who know what's actually going on. Those are the people who should not be allowed to speak. They should be expected to speak. So my team in the company that I currently own, if they show up and they didn't put an issue on the list that week, I am not happy. I'm like, matter of fact, I've got the gift of sarcasm. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that or not, but I will look at them and go, oh, we're perfect. Like, no mistakes here. We're all running things 100% easy, right? No, there's always an issue. There's always somewhere where it can be improved, and we need to expect it in our organizations. I missed something there. That's fine. Process. This is simple. Doing the right things the best way every single time. I worked with a light industrial company recently, and you got to think about what light industrial is. These are good old boys. Their hands are dirty. They're welding, pipe fitting. They're doing all the things. Well, what I was told is Dave does it this way. Dave's always done it this way. Bob does it this way. He's always done it this way. I'm not going to be able to get him to change. Like, well, guess what? Out of process comes scalability and profitability. This is how you accelerate your business when everybody's doing it the same way, the right way, the best way every single time. Because then when you're bringing people up, they're going to know how to do that. Now, I don't care if you're a solo entrepreneur or if you own a large company or somewhere in between. You got to start building processes. Even as a solo entrepreneur, if you write down how you do something, you're going to figure out how to do it better. You're going to go, oh, wait a second. There's redundancy over here. I'm doing it twice, or I'm not doing it as effectively as I could, and this is wasting time in between. That's what process is all about. Last one is traction, which I tried to write at the top. We say vision without traction is hallucination. You're just not going to get there. Traction is having discipline and accountability throughout your organization, or just for yourself. How are you holding yourself accountable to execute on your goals, on your vision? How do you know 100% that you're going to get to where you want to go? All right, so this is the whole model. See it all coming together now? It's a little neater on the paper, but I get by. All right, everybody in this room, your organization is from 0 to 100% strong in each of these 6 key components. We actually have a, my email's on there. If you guys shoot me an email, I will shoot you back today called the organizational checkup, and it'll let you know how strong you are. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back around, I'm gonna show you what 100% strong in each component looks like, so you guys can kind of evaluate. What time am I supposed to be done? So I'm watching the clock.
1 o'clock.
Okay, gotcha. All right, most companies are at 20%, succeeding in spite of themselves. Our goal is 80% or higher in each of the six key components. When Troy called me and I finished the book, I took the organizational checkup and I scored, I believe it was a 27. There were some things really wrong inside my company. The last time we did our quarterly, which was just almost exactly 3 months ago because annual's coming up, last time I did quarterly with that team, they scored 84. So huge improvement in these 6 key components. So that's our goal, is to get 80% strong. Let's take a look at the tools. First one, that is not gonna work. 8 questions. This is another document. If you ask me for it, I'm happy to send it to you. It's also available online if you search for it. It's called the VTO, Vision Traction Organizer. When I ask, is everybody on the same page with where you're going and how you're going to get there, I'm asking questions out of the Vision Traction Organizer. So I'm going to walk through it with you. First thing on there is core values. What are your core values? This is what defines the culture of the organization. So let's use time as a core value real quick. In my company, one of our core values, the one that I own, is we respect each other's time and we respect our clients' time. What that means is be on time, show up on time. So if I interview somebody and they go, hey, man, I'm never on time. I am chronically late all the time. What is that going to do to the culture that I've built in this company of everyone respecting each other's time and everyone else's time? It's going to degrade it, isn't it? Because I'm letting that person get by with being late all the time, or they're going to be late all the time. By the way, I'm speaking very personally right now. This is actually something that happened. We didn't read it. We didn't ask the right questions in the interview. Somebody came in. They were unreliable. They weren't on time. We had to fire them 3 months later. Like, they just weren't working out. It was going to degrade the culture. So it's very important. Sorry, let's do one, core values. It's very important that those core values are a match throughout the organization. And when we get down here to people, I'm going to talk just a little bit more about core values and how that works. Number 2 is core focus. So core focus is, what can you be the best in the world at? Anybody want to guess at what Orville Redenbacher's core focus was? It's just popcorn. Like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do popcorn. And we asked some clarifying questions in there. We asked why you do what you do inside of core focus, and then what do you want to do. So the why is the hard thing to get to, is what's driving you to do what you do. And some of you may say money. That's fine if you say money. I'm looking for something deeper than that. If you say money, make sure you tell everybody that you hire that you're hiring them to help you make more money. That's your focus. Be honest about it. Be open. But it also might be just to help people. So core focus, being the best you can. 10-year target, also called BHAG. Anybody know what BHAG is? Big,
hairy, audacious goal.
Thank you for saying audacious. I've had a couple other words slipped in there a time or two. Big, hairy, audacious goal. This is not intended. This is what happens to all my companies. I go, hey, let's set your BHAG, let's set your 10-year. And they go, well, last year we did 2 million. So next year we're going to do 2.2. And I'm like, no, shut up. No, this is big, hairy, audacious goal. Throw it out there. One of my companies that I work with set their goal. They were at 2.7 million. They set their BHAG as 10 million. And they ended this past year, after working with me for a year, at 6.9. I'm like, goodness, they freaking killed it. We had to reset everything. Like, we reset the BHAG's now 20 because they're so close to it now. We know we're going to hit it. It's not going to be a problem. All right, number 4, marketing strategy. My handwriting is so good. Yeah, try to decipher that. Marketing strategy. This is the demographic, psychographic, and geographic profile of your client. I just had breakfast with a guy today that was in insurance, and I said, "What's your target market?" And he said, commercial in the United States,
Oh my God.
not a target market. That is a nuclear bomb target. Like that nuclear bomb wouldn't even cover that target market. So what this typically looks like is we are targeting married women age 40 to 50 inside Hampton Roads, the 757, who value luxury and have an income of $150,000 or more. That's a target market. What target markets are designed to do is to focus your marketing dollars and effort. How many of you guys in here have an unlimited marketing budget? Yep, that's what I thought. So you've got to have some kind of target market. Otherwise, you're just shotgunning it out to everybody. And what you want to do when you're setting target market is look at who brings in the most money. Like what kind of company that hires you for commercial cleaning, what do they look like? Do they have 2 employees? They have 50 employees. Where are they located? Doesn't make any sense if are you Peninsula?
I'm everywhere.
No, where are you based?
Oh, Virginia Beach.
Okay, so it doesn't make as much sense to go to the Peninsula because it's more expensive for him to go to the Peninsula. So that's what I'm saying. You got to start narrowing that where you market to. Now, are you going to take the client that just calls you up and hires you? Probably, as long as they're not too far outside your target market. But you need some kind of target market. Part of this too, there's 2 more things in here. There's proven process. Flip your page over real quick that you got in front. Well, nope, that side. The side with the diagram. That's our proven process. Shows you how you start with a client and how you go through to a full life cycle with a client. So that's what we're talking about, illustrated version and then guaranteed. Not every company has these. About 50% of my companies have guarantees and 50% of them have proven processes. If it makes sense, we do it. Number 5 is 3-year plan. I apologize in advance for what I'm about to say. If any of you just did a 3-year strategy planning thing and you spent tens of thousands of dollars on it, I'm really sorry. I hate those. And I'm going to give you the exact example why I hate them. I just had my client go from 2.7 to 6.9. What do you think happened to their 3-year strategy? If they had paid me thousands and thousands of dollars to set up a complex, deep 3-year strategy, what would we have done with it? Chucked it. It's gone. So we set a 3-year plan that looks like this: revenue, profit, and measurable. Measurable I'll talk about in just a second. Revenue and profit, those are pretty clear. Net or gross, depends on what you want to show your people. Measurable is, what are you measuring? What's the one thing that you're measuring that makes a difference? What's McDonald's? Do you guys remember it? It's kind of gone by the wayside. What was McDonald's measurable? How many what? Burgers. Do they sell things that are not burgers? But that was their measuring stick, was burger sold. It used to say on the sign like 100,000, and then it was 1 million, and then I think it just said billions and billions, and then they took it away. So they kind of went, well, we can't measure that anymore. It's too much. But they had a measurable, and I've got a client it's pool installs. Do they do other things? Yep, they do, but they measure pool installs. So whatever that is, we want to make sure we've got that target for the 3-year plan. And then we bullet point 5 to 15 descriptors. We're going to have 2 offices. We're going to have 30 employees. We're going to have all of our processes complete in 3 years. We're going to have 10 company vehicles. That's what that looks like. And then we go to 1-year plan. We're going to set 5 to 7 goals for the year. Now this is where, even if you don't run a company, you don't own a company, this right here, if you understand all this about your company, you seek it out, it's going to make you a more effective player because you're going to understand where you need to go. Also, sidebar, nothing to do with professional EOS. I think 90% of what I do in EOS can roll over to your personal life. Like, what is your vision statement? Like, what are your core values as a human? What do you want to do in 10 years? What does your life look like? This all rolls over. This is just great planning tools. So 1-year plan, again, you're going to have revenue, profit, and measurables. Got it here too. 5 to 7 goals. What are the 5 to 7 things that are going to move the needle on your company or your professional life or your personal life in the next year? What do those look like? They got to take longer than 90 days to complete, but less than a year. Does that make sense? So we're kind of compartmentalizing here. So we got the 1-year plan, and then 7 We're gonna talk more about rocks, but we're gonna set 90-day objectives. So you guys see how this all fits together? This goes to this goes to this goes to this, and this one, and this one are directive. They're giving you the pathway that you need to take. Everybody follow so far? Yep, you're not asking enough questions. Interrupt me. All right, so rocks, 90 days. I take my companies and we actually do a brainstorming session and I'll say, hey, what do you guys think? Take 5 quiet minutes, sit, write. What do you guys think the most important things for this company to do in the next 90 days are? And I'll get up and I'll cover a whiteboard. And then we'll start working on it. What are they? And we'll make them smart, specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and timely. Make sure that we know. This is the best way to say, you want to set a SMART goal? Here's how this works. One day, you're going to finish what that goal is, and you can go, done. That's the best way to make it SMART. Some people go, we're going to improve processes. There's no pen drop on that. That is forever. You will never finish improving your processes. All right. And the last one, we track issues on this document, long term. One of the great things about EOS and what we teach is there's a compartment for everything. So if you guys ever run into something, you're like, you know what, we really need to, and fill in the blank. Maybe it's, we really got to buy a new car for the company. But then you like go, well, it's working good enough, and then you don't talk about it anymore. We store all those on the long-term issues list. So that's where we put all of that and compartmentalize. So this is what it looks like. And this is what it looks like when it's 100% strong. It is shared by all. So everyone in your organization, if I come in and go, it's 10-year target, they know it. What are your core values? They frickin' better know it. Like, they better know core values because, and I'll get to people in just a second, but we're evaluating them on core values. That's actually a part of the eval process to make sure they fit those core values. I need to speed up. So that's what the vision looks like, 100% strong. Let's move to people. Anybody read Good to Great?
Yes.
Yep.
This is straight out of Good to Great, but it gives a practical application to it. Right people, right seats. Right people are a core value fit, which I already talked about. We use a tool called the People Analyzer. It's the best tool I've ever seen in my life to evaluate people. You have your core values. It looks something like this. You got your core value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And right here is our guy, Bob. Core value 1, does Bob tell the truth? We'll do simple ones. Most of the time, some of the time, or most of the time he does not. Most of the time, Bob tells the truth. He gets a plus. What about the next one? On time. Most of the time he's on time, some of the time, or most of the time he's not. Most of the time Bob's late. He gets a minus. Does that make sense how the scale works? It is the simplest people evaluation tool I've ever seen in my life. And I freaking love it. I actually expanded this and we now do roles and responsibilities on that too, so I'm going to show you that in a second. But right people, very simply, is a core value fit. Right seats is a little bit different. This is a skill set. So real quick, this is just business 101. There are 3 components of business that pretty much everything fits in. Sales and marketing, operations, and finance. That simple. And then up here, we've got what we call the integrator. Sometimes we have what's called a visionary. Visionary, big picture people. This is more in the weeds. Right now it looks like what? What is this called? Org chart, but what do we call it?
Accountability chart.
Accountability chart. Somebody's on EOS. It is called an accountability chart because we then fill in 5 roles or responsibilities in each seat. I don't know if you guys know how transformational that is to go from an org chart to an accountability chart, because now I get to look and go, oh, that's Sally's job over here in sales and marketing, not operations job. getting clarity on this, when I first started doing EOS professionally and working with clients, we have it says 3 to 4 hours in our like training material, 3 to 4 hours to get this right. And I was like, good God, that's gonna take 30 minutes. What am I gonna do with the other 3.5 hours for these clients? Oh my gosh, I've heard of implementers taking 8 hours on this. Were you guys 8 hours?
We weren't 8 hours, but the accountability chart is one of the hardest things to like wrap your head around.
Yep.
You're so used to an org chart, and it changes often.
Yes.
It needs to be revisited often.
It needs to be revisited no less than every year. And really each quarter, it's kind of nice to like look at it and figure out what issues you have. This goes all the way down, by the way. It doesn't stop here. We customize it first of all. Sometimes sales pops out and it's its own department. Sometimes there's a
That's what I was
couple.
gonna say is as you're growing, that chart's gonna change quarterly easily.
Yep.
I mean, when
Well,
we
your
started-
growth.
Yeah, we started growing, I basically was like, if it didn't involve sales, marketing, getting us leads, Chase did it. So, who's my son who worked for me? Who runs
This is
everything.
Chase right here.
Yeah, that is yes, he is a dream implementer to any visionary. So everything was Chase, so it was really easy because it was me, him, a couple guys in the field. He did everything. Now, we just came up with a POC for each manager now, which is a point of contact. Somebody's out of work for a week, what happens? You know, how good a manager are you? Can the company run without you? But you gotta have a point of contact in there. So we were doing that, and it was interesting to watch that, because you have to grow those too.
Yep.
You have to grow those too.
What's your name again?
Kalisha.
K or C?
Okay.
Okay. Right now, this is Kalisha.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Because that's how business starts. But here's what happens. Kalisha looks at this and goes, I suck at finance. So what's her first hire?
Part-time bookkeeper.
Part-time bookkeeper, great.
100%.
And then she goes,
You hire them.
you know what? I really love doing massage and skincare and all that kind of stuff. I like hands-on. I don't really want to be doing the sales and marketing, bringing the clients in. So then she hires a part-time person to help her with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What this does, it reveals the weak spots in the organization. It reveals where you're overwhelmed, and it reveals where it's not a fit. I don't have time to get too deep, but we do get it, want it, and capacity to do it. It's called GWC. You GWC the role. Get it is natural aptitude. Want it is desire. And this is a little confusing. Everybody gets this one confused. Capacity is not the time and energy to do it. It is the acquired skill set. So that could be education, it could be experience, any of that. So I'll make my team go around and go, well, what do you think about Chuck in the visionary role? And then I'll get, does he have is he naturally wired up for it? Does he want to do it? And then does he have the skills to do it? Boo, no, he sucks. So we'll do that. And then a lot of times we finish and we go, okay, well, what do we do? Chuck's all we got. And I go, well, we leave him in there, but we identify that we're short on this one, or we're short on this one. We know we've got we call it an RPRS issue, right person, right seat issue. So we break this down for a company and build it out. To your point, or somebody made the point earlier, I just had one of my contracting companies actually called me yesterday. I just had an appointment cancellation. He said, can you come by? We're having struggles with the accountability chart. They've only had one session with me. And I went by and they literally eliminated a couple of these high level positions and just pushed everybody back up because they need to stay there for about a year. So anyway, I realize this gets complex. I spend 100 hours or so with each client building all this. Like, it's insane how much time I end up spending with them. So I'm just giving you guys the overview. So we need right people, right seat. Yep, go Jason.
So would that eventually pop out if you continue to grow?
Yeah.
Yes, just watch not making it too wide. If this ends up being 12, we have a problem. Because those 12 are answering to this one person. It's very difficult for one person to manage 12 people directly.
Right.
I like to see no more than about 6 or 7. That's my sweet spot. Other people have different opinions, and it varies by industry too. So yes, it starts to grow and flesh out. If you type accountability chart into Google, you'll probably see some EOS people that have posted accountability charts and get some samples. So Right people, core value fit. Right person is skills fit. We need both. So what happens if we've got right person, but wrong? We got right person. This person's great at or sitting in the finance and 100% on all the core values, but they suck at math. We're going to try to move them because they're a cultural fit. We're going to move them somewhere in the organization. What if, and this is far more likely, sorry if there's a CPA in here, great at math, really good at their job, but horrible to work with. I'm describing a CFO that I know.
Why did you say CPA?
Because I actually have one that was really hard to work with. And the company doesn't know it yet. Like, I've asked the question in some subtle ways. They don't know yet. He's not a core value fit. He is not a core value fit. As a matter of fact, I've got a friend, they just let their company go. And he literally came to me, he goes, have you met the new CFO? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, whoa. I was like, yup. We're recognizing it from the outside. They're not recognizing it from the inside. So enough on that. We got to move on. Okay. Scorecard and measurables. Scorecarding, 5 to 15 high-level numbers that tell the story of your organization or of you if you're solo. What numbers do you have that tell the story of your organization? So right away, here's what we're going to get. Revenue, sales. These are lagging numbers. You are 90 days, 60 days, 30 days behind the ball. If the revenue starts to fall off, there was a behavior that precluded that. Does that make sense? So we have to have leading and lagging numbers on this scorecard to tell the true story of the organization. So for example, how many leads came in? What was our close rate on those leads? Now we're into advanced numbers that tell the story. We've got levers in my company that we know I can just take, we do Facebook ads in this company. And so I know that all I have to do is approve a higher budget for Facebook ads, and all of a sudden we'll start to see business uptick. But we measure all of those things on the leading side so that we can get down to the final number. But this scorecarding, trying to gauge my time here. Scorecarding for the leadership team should be 5 to 15 numbers that tell the whole story of the organization. Usually I have trouble getting my leadership teams to narrow it down. They're like, I've got a particular company and they've got plumbing, electrical, and HVAC division. And they want all of those numbers for sales, conversion, all separated. And I'm like, you're going to have an 80 number scorecard. Can't do that. We got to narrow it down. And it's really hard to do. But what happens is, this is the illustration. I want, as an owner or as an individual, if you're on an island and somebody drops that piece of paper down to you in your little chair with the cabana boy or girl sitting by the pool, and you look at it, you're going to know if you need to get on a plane and come home, or whether your company's doing fine. Now, this is the way this works. We've got a room. A good scorecard has 13 weeks of numbers trailing out. Okay, you want to be able to look at the last 13 weeks. That gives us trends. It's also going to have an owner. Who owns that number? What is the measurable, and what is the goal? It has to be measured weekly. Fight me on it if you want to. It has to be measured weekly. Can't do monthly numbers. Monthly numbers, by the time you see a trend, you're 90 days behind the ball. You gotta find something to measure that is weekly. Every week you put those numbers in, because then if we see 30, and then the next week you see 27, and then you see 25, you go, okay, that's too consistent. What's going on? So we want to measure not just at the leadership level. We got to have this at the leadership level. But then if you've got a team here, we also have a scorecard here. We also have a scorecard here. We also have a scorecard, departmental scorecard. So those numbers start getting pushed down and getting more detailed. So you end up with a measurable for everyone. Remember earlier I talked about people being measured, knowing what the win looks like? Every single person in a full-on EOS company has a number. Every single person, so that they can measure their success. And I've challenged people before. They've said, I just don't think we can. I said, I'll stop by. Challenge accepted. Like, I will find a number for those people. Receptionist, fine. Her number's 2. pick up on 2 rings or less. We can measure it now. We have software. One of my guys, this is actually super helpful. I've had this twice. I had it yesterday with the company I went to meet with about accountability chart, and I had it in my own company. Their number is 0. So one of us, we've got a Trello board that measures project, and 0 is his number. 0 cards off track. Do not get off track, ever. Make sure you're completing what you've told us you're gonna do. He has subcontractors he can push stuff out to if he gets behind. So there's no reason to ever be off track. So his number is 0. But everybody in the organization has to have a number, and the scorecard has to tell the story of the organization. This is how we're not operating on subjective feelings. You ever do that? You think, how's my company going? I feel pretty good about it. Or worse, good God, you operate off your checking account balance. If it's got the right number in it, you feel good. That is not an indicator of your success. That is simply an indicator of current cash on hand. You might owe 100 grand and you got 50 grand in the bank. That's not good. You cannot operate off a checking balance. You've got to operate off of meaningful measurables, and everybody in the company has to have one. Any questions on that one? Issues list and IDS. Does this match what you guys are putting in? I want to make sure am I doing it in the right order? I've been doing this from memory for so long. I'm like, I don't know. I'll get it done either way. So issues list. This is probably one of the best things you do inside your organization, or if you're on your own, same thing. See an issue, call it out and put it on a list. We operate off of 90.io. Is that what, Chuck, are you on software? No. Okay. We're using 90.io, which is designed to work in hand with EOS, and it's freaking beautiful because every single person has access to it. And as soon as you see an issue, and here's what I mean by an issue. Anytime I heard somebody in the hallway the other day at my company go, I didn't understand what, and I went, I hear an issue coming. Why didn't you understand? My team can almost operate seamlessly with very little to no communication. If they have to ask someone in the company about something, that's an issue. Why couldn't you why wasn't there a clear process that was being laid out that you could follow without asking questions? Now it took us 5 years to get there, but every single time that there was a variation in something, it made it to the list. It made it to the issues list. So we end up with 10 issues, and then we discuss it. Why did you have to ask that question? Well, I thought this, and the other person says, well, I thought that. And then we go, okay, well, what's the process that we need to fix to make sure that you no longer have those questions? I don't want my team stopping to bother each other and ask questions. You heard the new reset is 30 minutes now? I think it used to be 15. If you interrupt someone, it takes them 15 minutes to get back on task. I heard the other day it's up to 30 now. So probably because they got to check TikTok a couple times before they get back to work. So. But yeah, I don't want interruptions. I don't want my team to have to talk to each other unless it's absolutely necessary. So issues list is having a place for everyone to put their issues, and then IDS is how we handle those issues. I is identify. D is discuss, and S is solve. Quick question, kind of a trick question. Where do you think that most people spend all of their time?
Discuss.
Nailed it. Right here. Even great leadership teams get together and they will discuss the crap out of an issue. But they missed a couple steps. One is, what is the issue? You can write down this quote, it's not mine. An issue well stated is half solved. An issue well stated is half solved. So I'll tell my team, they'll write down an issue, and here's usually how they write it, and it's so frustrating, but every team does it. Hire a cleaning person. That is not an issue. That is a solution, and it'll shut down the whole team as soon as we get in the room. Write down the issue. Bathrooms aren't clean. Now we've got an issue, okay? Why aren't the bathrooms clean? Well, do we have a cleaning person? Is there someone assigned to it? And we have to dig in. 50% of your time should be spent on identify. And I have to fight my team of the company that I still own, and the teams that I work with. I fight so hard for this. Identify, identify, identify. Now, sometimes it's so obvious that it's kind of stupid to sit on identify, but that's more the rare ones. The deeper issues, we really got to wrestle with what is the issue. One company that I worked with, it's a restaurant, and they had an issue with, they were trying to keep their staff costs at a certain percentage. I want to say it was like 27% or something like that. And they said, Saturdays are too busy, we're just going to have to exceed the percentage. I said, well, what's the issue? And we fought through it, and I kept pushing them back. And finally they discovered the real issue was they were overstaffed on Tuesday and understaffed on Saturday. So we just made a swap. But if I had not pushed them to do the identify part, they just would have hired for Saturday and screwed their percentage. They would have gone up to like 29%, and that really hurts margins. Restaurants are razor thin anyway. They could not afford to go to 29%. So we spend a lot of time on identify, and then we discuss. In the discussion, if you've got a healthy team, they're going to be open and honest. Everybody's going to speak. Everybody's going to give feedback. And then we move to solve. Solve results in a to-do. So there should be an action resulting from the solve. Can you imagine if your team got together and solved 10 issues, 5 issues every single week, how different that company would look a year later? If you just go issue, and you document that, if you're a solo entrepreneur, you document that and just go, okay, I'm gonna sit down with a buddy, a friend, an accountability partner, or myself, and just go, what's the real problem? You can do IDS by yourself. It's not as effective as it is with a team, but you can still do it. How different would your company look? So this is 100% strong when you built a culture of expecting to call out issues. Everyone's bringing issues to the table in the organization, and you're solving them and making them go away forever because you're solving them at the root because you spent 50% of your time on identify. Got it? Awesome. All right, process. Wrong color. Document. And followed by all. So, process documentation. What we do is we take, it actually comes from this line. If you look, you've got sales process, you have a marketing process, you have a few operations, you're gonna have things like customer service, you have a finance process, an HR process. All we're doing is listing the major processes in a company. Whatever those look like for you, they're gonna vary for everybody. And then we take a 20-80 approach. Document 20% of the steps will get you 80% of the way there. Real quick, a process is not an SOP, what we're talking about here. This is what you do. This will help you tremendously. I was the most annoying boss in the world 8 years ago. I literally wrote a process one time that said, take the key and turn it so that the teeth are pointing up and insert into the lock. Was I hiring 2-year-olds? Like, what was I doing? That was my SOP. Insane. No one reads that crap. Nobody cares about that. So we're gonna do 20% of the steps in each one just to document what are the basics on how we function. It doesn't seem that big a deal. You're like, 20%, is that even gonna do anything? Transformational, yes. Because you're gonna have confusion. You're gonna get your team together and go, how do we sell? What's the process? Well, I go meet with clients and try to sell them. Well, what exactly do you do? How do you find the client? Do you call? Do you email? What is the process? And then you go, well, we email. I told you I was a member of EO. My EO coach looked at me and he said, so what's your process? Well, I can show him exactly what it is because we've documented all of our processes. And he said, where's your phone call? And I go, we don't pick up the phone. And of course I realized in that moment how dumb I am for not picking up the phone. And it was transformational. But if I hadn't had a clear process, he wouldn't have been able to go, you're missing a really key element. Pick up the phone. We've been depending on email and text. Just weren't picking up the phone. Our close rate skyrocketed when we picked up the phone. I mean, it's insane. It was absolutely transformational for the business. So we're going to document all these, and they look something like, I'm running out of room.
You have a board behind you.
Other side.
Behind you.
Oh, what?
Right there.
Where? Oh, hi. I'm good. Maybe. If I drop it, save me.
I'll dive out there.
Yep. I like to do this backwards. So I like to start with happy customer. And then I'm going to draw backwards and go, okay, what's next? I do this with sticky notes on a board so I can move them around. And I go, we did the eval because that's how we know they were happy. What happened before that? Well, that was pickup. They got their product. What happened before that? That was receiving. Does that make sense? And then I just map out that process, all the basics, so that I've got all the lines in there. In the software that we use called 90.io, which I can give you more information on, you can actually do all this and assign people to each piece, because just because it's one process doesn't mean the same person handles every step. Sometimes there's another piece in there. But the clearer you get this, the more effective you are as a business, the more efficient you are as a business. You become scalable because as you hire someone new, they come in and go, well, how do you do this? And you go, process is right there. As opposed to, well, this is how I do it. I don't know how everybody else does it, but that's it. All right, and then followed by all. There has to be a system to make sure that every single person is being trained on the process, follows the process, and is held accountable to the process. That's where calling out issues comes from. Hey, we had a client show up for pickup, and their order wasn't received. Uh-oh, where's that go? Issues list. What happens? We identify what that issue was. Why did that go out? We have an automation problem. We're sending out the automation in this company. There's an automation that goes out when an order is received, it gets pushed. But if somebody drags that cart over early, you see where this is going? So we'll break that down into pieces and go, okay, where is the issue? It's right here. And we will solve that problem with a new automation, different accountability. We're gonna fix something. All right, traction. Wrong color again. Rocks. Rocks, do you guys know the illustration? Probably not everybody knows it. Got a glass jar. Look, the glass jar. So I've got this glass jar and I've got a pile of rocks, good sized rocks, gravel, sand, and water. If I take the water and put it in and it fills up to here, and then I put in the sand and then I put in the gravel, the rocks don't fit. But if I put the rocks in first, and then I put the gravel in, it filters down around the rocks, and then I put the sand in, it filters down around that, and then I put the water in and it filters down around that, and now it all fits. Does that make sense now? Rocks are the most important thing that you need to do in the next 90 days. That simple. We do 5 to 7 company rocks and 5 to 7 individual rocks. Company rocks are simply the most important. The only difference between company and individual is priority. That's it. What are the 5 to 7 things that this company needs to do in the next 90 days to move the needle forward? Move the needle forward is important language. This is not, I need to file my tax returns. That is not moving the needle. That's just keeping the needle from dying. So it's we need to buy a new van. We need to develop a new process. I need to hire this person. I just got on the phone with a client when I pulled up that they're losing a key position, and we just did their annual. So I'm actually setting up a new meeting because they just had one of their key people say, I'm not going to stay with the company. Major change for the organization over the next year. We got to fix that first. So rocks 5 to 7 company, and then 5 to 7 for each person on the leadership team, which would be these people. So, but no more than a total of 5 to 7 for any one individual. Because when everything's important, nothing is important. So this is just grinding down. Now this is hard to do, especially as a solo entrepreneur, because everything's important, right? Everything's important. But you're lying to yourself. Everything is not important. There's a lot of stuff to do, but you figuring out what is the most important thing I can do. I don't care where you're at. Home, business, solo entrepreneur, CEO. It's all the same. You have to figure out what do you want to focus on in the next 90 days and execute on that. And we want to see at least an 80% completion rate on these rocks for the entire organization. By the way, that discipline doesn't stop with leadership team. It filters down to 1 to 3. Everybody below this line, 1 to 3 rocks. How many people in the organization are going to have a rock? 100%. I said that with a lot of confidence just because I knew what I was going to say next. There are misses to that. So I've got a company that I work with, and they have what they call recruiters. And those recruiters, their only job is to call and find staffing. That's it. They just have to execute on those numbers every single day. They have measurables. They have several measurables. But rocks, they're not moving the needle of the company forward. So we go, okay, exception there. I understand it's your company. That probably makes sense. There's not a lot for them to do. But I get a lot of pushback, like Chuck's guys. They're out doing, HVAC stuff, plumbing stuff. They're doing that stuff every day. What could their rock possibly be? One of the ones that I come up with all the time is inventory the van. Clean the vans, like thorough cleaning, like end to end. That's your rock this year, is to have a clean van. So there are rocks in most roles that you can find. And then finally is what we call meeting pulse. So this is productivity. And this is time. Day 1, day 45, day 90. So we're going to do a quarter. So you got a few different types of people. One is this one. This is what we call the nerd. Okay, this is the kid that got an assignment at the beginning of the quarter and finished it the next day. Okay, nobody likes this kid, but they're highly productive. This is what most of us are. What's that called? The procrastination model. That's how most of us work. We actually don't want either one of these. Because this person was probably distracted from their day-to-day because they were hustling on the big project. And then this one waited till the very last second and probably did shoddy work. Here's what we want. So every Wednesday morning in one of the companies that I own, you will see a spike of flurry and activity on Wednesday morning before 10 o'clock. Why? Because we have our weekly meeting, or the level 10 meeting. We call it the L10, every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, same place, same time, same agenda, never changes. That level 10 meeting is what keeps everybody spiking. Remember I said earlier that to-dos? I'll talk about that here, where we solve those issues. So, segue is the first thing we do. I ask everybody in the meeting, what was your best and worst moment, business and personal? Sorry, best moment, business and personal. And it's really insightful. If you run a team, you might not know your people as well as you think you did. I remember being shocked one time when marketing director for one of the companies that I own said, young girl, said, my mom hasn't yelled at me all week. Whew. Like, that gives me a ton of grace for that individual, because I'm like, wow, her home life is rough. And I found out how rough it was later, and good God, it was a lot. But opening that up. Also, you've got people who go, I don't have anything. Yeah, you do. You're here, you're alive, you're breathing. You beat a bunch of people this morning. There's a bunch of people who didn't wake up this morning. So be grateful for what you have. So it starts with gratitude. Second thing is scorecard. Let me tell you how this works. Remember, we've got all these numbers, right? The only thing that Bob can say about his number is on track or off track. That's why it's only 5 minutes, by the way. 5 minutes, 5 minutes. On track, off track. If it's on track, good job, Bob. If it's off track, where's it go? Issues list. Will we discuss it that day? I don't know. I'll show you how that works in just a second. Rocks. I did a little caveat here. I'm pointing to you because you got coached by Walt, and this is my own thing. We ask on track, off track for rocks, which is pure EOS. That's how we're supposed to teach it. But then we make our team say next step. It's just a little tweak that made all the difference, because now they're not putting off something until the end. Everybody has to have a next step for that rock every single week. And so that really helped our team stay on track. If they say off track, it goes to issues list. All right, this is customer employee headlines. And that's just, hey, the Jones family really liked the project we did. It went really great. Bob is mad because when we were mowing his lawn, we mowed his cat, and he's very angry. Okay, that's an issue. Put it on the issues list.
Shouldn't happen again, though.
That's no, second time. Just don't get another cat. We won't have that problem again. We do a to-do review. So this is where this accountability came in. We identified a bunch of issues last week, right? And then we said we are going to do this in 7 to 14 days is the rule on our to-do. We're going to do this in the next week. By the way, quick tip. I don't know how many of you, probably none of you follow me on TikTok. I've got 8 followers. I'm just kidding, there's more than that. But I just did a thing on setting goals and why they don't work. To-dos don't work because they're not to-dos, they're projects. My project this week that I did it again. It was install an on-off switch for the battery on my RV. Why they don't come with them, I don't know. It's so stupid. So I ordered a switch and I kept putting it off, I realized the reason I put it off is because I don't know how to install a switch on an RV. So I had to watch a video first and figure it out. So my to-do this week was watch video on how to install the switch. Now I know exactly what I'm doing. I ordered the one wire that I need. No problem. It's a really simple process. But it was 2 steps, not 1, and that kept me from getting that to-do done. So for what that's worth. And then we do IBS, 60 minutes. Here's how we do this. We say, here's our list. What do you guys think is the most important? And we're going to figure out what is the most important thing for this company to solve today. This one, and this one. And then we stop. 1, 2, 3. And number 1, identify. What's the issue? And I'm going to ask him, I'm going to go, hey, you wrote the issue on the issues list. Tell us about it. And he'll break it down as briefly as he can, tell us what the issue is, and then we'll dive into identify, discuss, and solve. We keep going until the 60 minutes is up. At the end of that, we do conclude. 5 minutes. We're going to rate it on 4 things. Number 1, did we start on time? If my team is 1 minute late, they're crushed. We take a point away right away. Got to be on time. Number 2, do we end on time or early? Those are the rules. Number 3, did we solve issues? And number 4 is the kicker. Did we stay on track? Did we rabbit trail all over the place? One time I was coaching in a meeting, and I know these people really, really well. I'm actually a partner in their business, and the girl to my left is one of the owners. She's got her phone out while I'm talking about this. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I can talk to her that way, just not normal people. She was literally ordering, I just talked about squirrels and all this kind of stuff, and then I talked about, we've got some like stuffed toys that we can throw at each other when we're off track, or if there's an elephant in the room, you can throw an elephant. And she was ordering a squirrel. Like, she literally got off track, did a squirrel that was an actual squirrel, but she was very happy it came in. She sent me a picture of it. So want to evaluate that meeting on a scale of 1 to 10. How did we do today based on those 4 criteria? And then we review the to-dos, because I'm the king of writing call that guy. And 60 seconds later, I don't know who I'm calling, why I'm calling them, or why I wrote that down at all. So we review the to-dos and make sure everybody's clear. On to the next meeting. That's every week we're having that meeting, and then every quarter we stop and we do a quarterly. Full day session to reset everybody, get new rocks, all that kind of stuff. And that's, if you go to this segment, you'll see the blue boxes for what we do for clients. That's implementation. And then we do full quarterlies and annuals. And we tell our clients, by the way, one of the things that I do with clients, I'm not a consultant, so I don't dig myself into the organization. I teach and leave. So I want my clients to become independent. So we do 2 cycles of this, and then usually we're out. Sometimes they bring us back. I got one client that's gonna bring me back forever, probably for annuals, just because they want me to run them, which is great. All right, my time is almost up. That's what the model looks like, 100% strong. Got like 2 minutes for questions.
I'll just interject. My company's been running on EOS for several years before Jason was in the EOS, so we haven't used him. But I will say 100% worth it. And the book is amazing. You'll be tempted to self-implement. Don't self-implement, just hire someone. But definitely the whole framework is great. My question for you is, in your opinion, at what point can or does a company size out?
Size out of EOS? I would say it never really sizes out. The same systems are going to apply. Where we struggle is like if Coca-Cola called me right now, it's too hard to change the culture of an organization that large. You might be able to do it departmentally, but if you started with EOS and then you grew into it, Troy, my buddy that owns Layer 9, they're using Gordon, who's Pinnacle. Sorry, I'm speaking specific to what she knows. Gordon used to do what I do, and then there was a shift in what EOS does and started a new company called Pinnacle. And then they do kind of a hybrid of EOS. But Troy found that there were some other tools that works, but still as this company's grown, it's like 90% still EOS. And so I don't know that there's I'd love to hear somebody say we feel like we've sized out, and I just ask why. Is there too much accountability or you I mean that's
For us, it's become.
How many
more and
people
more
do you have?
difficult. Well, it kind of depends. We're a family of companies, so if you look at individual companies, they vary from 30 people to 130 people. Across all of them, we're 350 people.
there's something else going on. There's no way that I mean, we implement with companies up to 1,000. Like our target market, since I said target market, is companies 2 million and up with 10 to 250 employees. That's the sweet spot. Now we've implemented with brand new companies with 2 people and all the way up to like 10,000. So it's pretty wide variety. My clients right now range from just south of $1 million to over 50 million. So that kind of gives you a range of like who I'm working with now. It's just ROI on that, but I'd love to talk to you more, maybe outside perspective. I can give you some insight on what's happening there, but something's not running properly if you're already feeling like you might have phased out.
Okay.
There's something else going on there.
We broke it down. We didn't have this, but prior to water, I owned a construction company, and I went from a pickup truck doing everything myself, roofing wise, to 15 locations in 6 states, and then I retired in 2020. But we had that similar, but it kept growing as we kept, like Raleigh, North Carolina didn't do the same thing as Ocean City, Maryland, per se, because they're 2 different locations. But none of that changed.
As far as your structure, your accountability structure and all that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
but your top 2 just kept adding,
Yep.
and then it pyramided up, basically.
It should grow with you.
Yes.
I mean, if everything's being executed properly. I had a company the other day that said that they were holding a meeting and it wasn't working to push it down departmentally. And I'm like, I think it is working. I just think, and I finally figured out, as a matter of fact, is my phone, do I leave it over here? There are only 3 things that your team should be doing. And this was the problem that she ran into. Nope, that's different. Employee responsibilities. Executing on processes that have been clearly outlined, identifying, discussing, and solving issues in a structured meeting, and updating one another on the processes as they move forward, but only according to the process. Those are only 3 things they should be doing at lower levels of the company. She's saying she needs a 25-person meeting so that they can work together. And I'm like, you don't.
No.
You don't. And we're still digging that out. Her whole team also said you don't, but we'll get there with them. Those are only 3 things. As they grow, they should just be executing on processes. That's it. I'm over time at this point. Any other questions?
No, I just, EOS is great. I read the book in 2019. I see the shock and awe that y'all think that I can read. Is Audible is a great thing.
Yes,
So,
it is.
that's when you listen to the book.
Yeah. Works good for guys like Chuck.
We're on the road all day, right? So anyway, I tried to read a book a month, and this one, a friend of mine referred to me. And great book. It was life changing for me. I got my son to read it. We are the perfect. The next book is Rocket Fuel, and it describes me and my son's relationship.
Yeah.
100%.
So that's Rocket Fuel is the relationship between these 2 seats,
Yeah,
the visionary and the
it is-
integrator.
It is like he was in our office watching it happen. So, not position, or you were in